and Dame Lillard. He finally requested a trade from Portland. The 7-time All-Star has spent all 11 seasons in the NBA with Portland and will look to move elsewhere in hopes of winning a championship. The Heat, Clippers, Sixers, all some of the teams interested in trading for Lillard, according to Adrian Wojnarowski. And tweeting, for the first time since requesting a trade, Damian Lillard replied to fans saying they're surprised about him turning on the organization. Well, Dame tweeted, quote, "It's in my blood to take the high road. I'd love to hear what fans are turning on. Have I misled them or anyone? Fill me in," end quote. Okay, guys, let's have a discussion on this. And Wendy, let's go to you first. Where do we stand on the latest with Dame Lillard and his trade?
Well, very clearly, Dave Lillard wanted to give the Blazers every opportunity, and very clearly the Blazers didn't want to take the opportunity because they haven't done anything to improve the roster, literally nothing. So I can understand why Dame is saying that. So we know that Dame's preference very clearly also is Miami, and Miami has been preparing for this situation for several months, if not a year. Now, the trade that the Heat have to offer, which largely centers around draft picks and Tyler Hero, obviously also isn't really what the Blazers are looking for. And so now we begin the game. And I'll say, Brian, we watch NBA stars do their thing in May and early June every year. Well, late June and July is where the NBA's front office stars do their thing. And this is what we have going on right now, is the front office stars of the NBA rolling up their sleeves and trying to make a deal for Dame Lillard. You have the Miami Heat with Pat Riley and Andy Ellisberg, who have made a dozen or more of these types of star trades over the last 25 years. You have Daryl Morey and Elton Brand in Philadelphia, also veterans of many big deals, rolling up their sleeves and seeing if they can flop a James Harden trade into a 3-team trade that gets them Dame Lillard, plus some other teams lurking out there with other front office stars, veterans of big trades like maybe Danny Ainge in Utah. And so we will watch this play out behind the scenes in the coming days to see who wins this sweepstakes.
You know, when I talk with Dame, obviously Miami was one of the teams that he said he liked and would love to play with because he said he loves Bam Adebayo, he loves Jimmy Butler. You know, in today's age, you got to go to IG to find out what these players think. And Tyler Hero took Miami Heat guard off his IG profile. Okay, so
passive aggressive. And by the way, don't say that one of the teams.
Yeah.
Dame said Heat were the first team.
Yes, because Bam is his guy.
Yeah.
Is that the best fit for him, you think? Because listen, you hear Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson that they're offering up. Is that the best fit for him?
Yeah, fit-wise, I mean, you'd love to see Dame Time and Playoff Jimmy come together in the playoffs. You'd love to see that because that's hard to guard, no doubt about it. And, of course, you add Adebayo in there. But if you're asking me the fit, I love the fit with Joel Embiid in Philadelphia. If I'm the Sixers, I'm doing whatever it takes to make this move now. I'm not wasting any time because when you consider the Sixers' biggest issues have been closing the deal. Now, ironically, that's what you're waiting to see, what team's going to close the deal to land Damian Lillard. But for the Sixers, they haven't been able to get out. Game 6 and Game 7, they didn't have a way to close the deal. They got a guy like that can close the deal in Dame Time. You bring him in, you win those games now, and you finally get over the hump. He's one of the best clutch scorers in the game. You get him in there with Joel Embiid, now you got a legit shot to finally get over that second-round hump and win a championship.
Jimmy B, best fit.
I mean, the thing about this is I think both Philly and Miami are great fits, and it's what makes this battle between these teams in theory so interesting because for both of them, whoever wins this trade and gets Damian Lillard, let's say it's one of these two teams, I think they're by far the most likely ones. Whichever team wins this trade, you're going to look at it and say, all right, they've got Dame, they've got David Embiid, they've got Dame, Jimmy, and Bam. You could argue they're going to be the best team in the Eastern Conference.
Yep.
It's very rare that you see a situation where you have two teams essentially going after the same player. Right. And whoever gets them, you might put them at the very top of the East. And it's what makes this whole thing so compelling. As Brian said, you've got two guys in Daryl Morey and Pat Riley who have made tons of big deals like this and are super creative teams that have gone out and found ways to make things happen. And the interesting thing here is, you know, as Brian also said, you look at actions over words, what we talk about in the Hoop Collective, right? You look at what Portland's done over the last 18 months. They have done what's been in the best interest for the Blazers at every turn. They go and draft Shaedon Sharpe, a 19-year-old guy last year. They draft Scoot Henderson, a 19-year-old guy this year, right? After Dame said, I don't want any more 19-year-olds. Right. I want to have vets. I want to try to win now. Portland has shown at every point they're going to do what's in their best interest. I think the problem for the Blazers is because Dame has 4 years and $200 million on his contract and is 33 years old, you're not going to have a huge market of teams trying to trade for him. So it really might come down to which of Philly or Miami can get the best offer on the table that Portland likes. Because what's clear is right now, that kind of deal isn't there, or else this thing would already be done.
Hey, Wendy, you mentioned something. You know, Dame has been there for 11 years. He's certainly been loyal to the organization. If you're Portland, do you try to appease him and say, hey, listen, I know you want to go to Miami. We're going to try to make the best deal possible we can with Miami. Or, as Tim said, you know, actions speak a lot louder, and we're just going to try to get the best package we can, no matter who that team is.
Well, the Blazers GM Joe Cronin released a statement to Adrian Wojnarowski over the weekend saying that the team is going to do what it needs to do for itself. So they're trying to posture. Every team is posturing right now. Philadelphia is posturing, letting it be known that they don't want to include Tyrese Maxey in any deal. I don't see how you can have a real conversation for Dame unless you're including Tyrese Maxey. The Heat, I'm sure, have taken certain stances. So we're at the stage right now where there's a lot of posturing. Even Dame was kind of posturing within the last week because I think he knew pretty well last Monday when he had the meeting with the Blazers they weren't going to do what he wanted, but he postured as well. So we're in that stage right now. I would say that the Heat probably have the biggest edge long term because that's where Dame wants to be, but the Sixers have the best asset in Maxey. So it's definitely something that's going to be fascinating in the next few days as these guys work.
So why don't we just do a superstar for superstar swap?
Oh, James Harden?
Yes.
To Portland?
Yes.
No, you get a third team involved in that one. Maybe you get the Clippers involved in that one, and then you try to move assets around, which I don't know if there's enough assets there because, as Wendy just said, first of all, if you're having a meeting in the Philadelphia 76ers organization and you're saying you have a chance to get Damian Lillard, and you're saying, well, but we're not giving up Tyrese Maxey, that is, once again, franchise malpractice. You have to make the deal, and you got to give to get. You're not getting a scrub. You're not getting an average player. You're getting a superstar. You're getting a difference maker. You're getting your golden ticket to the NBA Finals. There should be no one that is untradeable, aside, of course, from Joel Embiid. Otherwise, why the hell else would you want to get Damian Lillard? That's it. So there should never be a conversation internally that, oh, no, we're not trading that guy. Because your window to win is small. It's a couple of years. In fact, it might only be 1 year. You never know. With all the whispers you're hearing about Joel Embiid and his impatience. This is your time to strike. It can't be about, oh, we really like Tyrese Maxey. Yes, of course you like him, but you're going to like Damian Lillard a lot more for what he can bring to your team immediately.
Well, and the thing about the James Harden part, right, is like you said, in theory, you are trading James Harden for Dame Lillard in this situation,
right,
but you're not trading him to Portland. And that's where you get into the complicating factors here. Like the Sixers have James Harden, who'd be the centerpiece of ultimately what the trade is, and because of what else he would bring in. And the Heat have Tyler Hero, and what he would sort of be the centerpiece of bringing what you're bringing in Miami. And clearly, those guys are not right now getting those teams in the situation where they have enough on the table and deals for them that Portland's like, yeah, let's do this.
And remember, Maxey has to get an extension at some point, right? And he's going to get a pretty good extension where Hero already got his. So the money's already in place for Tyler Hero. While Maxey, if you do trade him at some point, you got to give him an extension.
Well, and by the way, part of the reason Miami signed Tyler Hero to an extension last fall, he's now able to be traded today, right now. They can put him in a deal right now. If he was a restricted free agent going through the offer sheet game, gets a lot more complicated to make a deal. As opposed to having him on an extension, now you can say, all right, we can put Tyler Hero in deals, we can do stuff now. So to Brian's point earlier, this is something the Heat have been planning for a while, and now it's time for them to try to close the deal.
When to give you a final word?
I would suspect that this is going to be a bit of a brawl. And there's going to be third teams and fourth teams. The Brooklyn Nets could enter into this. Other teams could enter into this. San Antonio Spurs could enter into this because they've got cap space. You could see rumors go 100 different ways, and some of them even be true. But I expect this to be quite a lot of scrambling in the next few days to try to find a workable package. So buckle.
Dame wants out of Portland. James Harden wants out of Philly. You know Joel Embiid is watching all of this. So what happens if Embiid and the Sixers, you think, miss out on Lillard?
Well, the chances of Harden staying now suddenly go up exponentially, right? Because you really don't have many trade partners for him in any situation that would work for you. That's one thing. The other thing is that the Heat get better. And if you're Joel Embiid, that's a problem because that's in the East now. That's another team that you already have to worry about because they went to the finals. Now you got to worry about them even more. And the Bucks, they reloaded. They kept the team together. So Joel Embiid looks at his team and says, we are still where we are, the same team. And you might run into that brick wall that is the second round one more time. So he starts to wonder, as we've been talking about, can he win? Can he get to the promised land in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this is one of the situations where we have to wait and see what the other chips that fall are, right? Like, if they turn James Harden into a bunch of other stuff that's really good and it makes the Sixers better long term, then yeah, like, it's okay. That's a good outcome, right? If it's we run James Harden back next year and then we have all this cap space next summer and maybe we get players next summer and maybe we don't, then you start to get into the realm of where are the Sixers going? Can they keep up with Boston, with Milwaukee, with Miami at the top of the Eastern Conference, right? That, I think, is the question. It's going to put Philly on the clock a little bit. If they can't get a deal done here, all of a sudden it's like, okay, what's next? Like, what is the move? Where do we go from here? You know, if you get Dame Lillard, it's like, okay, you've got Dame and Embiid. You're going forward. You've got as good a 1-2 tandem in the league, and you feel great. If you don't, you got work to do.
All right, Wendy, give me your thoughts on this. What happens here if Embiid's looking and he says, wait a minute, we don't get Dame Lillard and we trade James Harden out of here? What do you think happens with the Sixers?
Yeah, I think Embiid won't necessarily freak out. I think he'll wait and see what Daryl Morey can do, and maybe not necessarily just by October, but by next February when it's the trade deadline happens, because they're setting up to have a bunch of expiring contracts on their books one way or another. But if we get to next February and this Philadelphia team is in a worse position than they were a year ago, and there's some teams around them, maybe the Celtics, maybe the Heat, if they get Dame, that are better, then I think Embiid's going to have some questions. But I don't think he's beaten the door down. He's getting married, I think, in 3 weeks. He's probably focused on that. But look, when we get to next spring, he wants to have a shot at it. And right now, Philadelphia, we don't know whether they're going to be better or not.
Well, and the other thing to point out, too, we go back to what happened with Ben Simmons when Daryl Morey traded Ben Simmons. Oh. And he could have done it early, right? And he waited and he waited and he waited until he got the deal he wanted. And I think what we've seen with the Sixers and with Daryl Morey over time is he's not going to make a trade just to make a trade, right? He's going to make the right deal when it comes along. And he's perfectly fine waiting. He doesn't mind uncomfortable situations. He doesn't mind things being awkward. He's going to do what he thinks is the right thing to do, and we'll see if that ends up coming into play here.
Wendy, I just heard these guys say something. What are the chances that James Harden stays in Philly?
So I think, Brian, they haven't internally ruled this out, that the idea that they could try to mend some fences. Now, initially, you can say, well, look, he asked for a trade away from the Rockets, made life miserable in Houston. They ended up having to trade for him. He basically started acting out and then asked for a trade in Brooklyn, but he made it clear he wanted out. They had to move on. There's no scenario in which, if he wants to make life miserable for the Sixers, that they wouldn't have to move on. The only difference is that now he's not in the middle of a long-term contract. He is now going to be an expiring contract, and he's got to use this season to prove that he gets another deal. So I believe that he will be off of the Sixers. I suspect he will be a Clipper. But if they can't find anything, it hasn't been ruled out internally in Philadelphia that they could try to mend fences here. I don't think that's most likely to happen, but it's on the board.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.